Live from Times Square, it's Pop Recovery Systems, led by visionary Laura Alexis. Pop Recovery Systems, redefining surgical recovery, with bariatric expert Dr. Eric Smith. Innovating surgical preparation and recovery, Pop Recovery Systems blends nutrition, mental health, and wellness.
Breaking through the noise and changing an industry. Join Laura Alexis and Dr. Eric Smith on the Pop Culture Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pop Culture Podcast. And I know this may seem a little odd because you won't normally see me starting the show because Laura doesn't like to not be in control all the time. But today, I get to control the show. So if you're joining us, this is our second episode, which is really cool. And hopefully you watched the first episode where Laura got to interrogate me and maybe teach you a little bit more about me. But today, it's my turn. The roles are reversed. So you're going to get to learn a little bit more about my sister from another mister, Laura Alexis, and really how we ended up as this dynamic duo. Are you ready?
You are so dramatic.
I had to suck up all the airtime, it's like prime real estate.
Well, you did a great job, but I was born ready.
Yes, I know. Today's word is humility. Can everyone repeat that after me?
You what? You who?
So, I think there's probably a lot of people on here that know a lot about you, Laura, because, last season, you did this by yourself. And now everybody's excited because the whole show got so much more exciting. I don't really know why, but lots of changes, lots of new things. But we probably have a new crowd, a lot of people that are like, who is this mystery woman that keeps showing up with Dr. Smith everywhere? And I see them together, I feel like they've known each other for their entire life. So, where do I start?
Not your entire life.
There is some sensitivity training for age that we can get you into.
Never.
Seasoned veteran, I like to say. But no, seriously. So let's talk a little bit about the person Laura Alexis. Let's start off with, when you were growing up, what do you think was the most impactful moment of your life as a kid? Let's say your teen years, maybe younger, I don't know. And to preface this, Laura doesn't know any of the questions I'm going to ask. I'm not sure I know all the questions I'm going to ask, but the most impactful part of your young life that you think molded you towards who you are today. And we're going to get into, you've had a lot of changes in your life like we all have. And we've learned from those too. But what do you think, and it doesn't have to be a moment, it can be a period of time or anything. You have an amazing personality. You're one of the most kind, loving people that I've ever met. You have a heart for strangers and people that you know just the same, which is one of the many things that I love about you. But that came from somewhere. And I don't think that that's something we learn in our adult years.
Yeah, I agree. You're better at this than I thought you would be. You better work. But so when I was younger, I grew up with a single mother. My biological father, who I love, just was having a hard time with life and got incarcerated when I was about 2 years old. So I always grew up with my single mom. And I also grew up raising my younger brother and sister. And so I was always like the caregiver, the mom. I was always, to my friends, I was always like the bigger friend. So then I was also the protector. So if someone was messing with my friend, you have to deal with Laura, and I never liked bullies. I was always really too big to be bullied, so I didn't really deal with that. But I was always an advocate for people that I loved. And I think it just came from that hole of that lack of father figure that I was trying to fill it with loving other people, is what I really think it is as I'm older and looking back. It felt really good to give others that love and nurturing and encouragement that I felt like I didn't get from my father's side. And that my mom, bless her, for the first, 12 years of my life, she worked 3 jobs just to take care of us. So whenever she could, she gave us love and affection and attention, but it wasn't as often as, say, like a nurturing or healthy 2-parent household. So I think that was very impactful. But I would say probably when I was younger, one thing that always made me really happy was music. And so I grew up in a time where they would have what's called the Disney Orchestra. And so my dream was to always be on the Disney Orchestra. So I started teaching myself how to play the violin when I was in 4th grade. I progressed really quickly and was first chair by 5th and 6th grade. And my mom had gotten remarried. He wasn't the best guy. And my punishment in 7th grade was he took that violin away. And so what you'll see is like, I have all these years of excelling in school, straight A's, student body council, finding music, and I love to create songs and on my fiddle and like play for Christmas events and stuff like that, and always giving. Like I was always I've always been a very giving spirit. And then right around 7th grade when they split and he took my violin, that's kind of when the rebellion came. But by then, I was already established a very generous and kind heart because it was something that I felt like I was missing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think sometimes when things at the time are hurtful, and your dad wasn't there, that still left just like you asked me, that's those scars that still help mold you into a positive person and have a lot of positive influence on you as an adult. So you mentioned rebellion. I know your mother. I think your mother is one of the sweetest, most amazing ladies. But I also think she at least appears to me an extremely patient woman. I'm pretty sure that was forced upon her to develop raising you. So when you became rebellious, what happened? Like, how did you talked so dearly about how much you loved your mom, you appreciated your mom. And I think sometimes we rebel against people that we love the most. Where do you think that came from?
Well, I love her and I loved her. I was a teenage girl, obviously also. So I'm going through hormone stuff. But like what happened was I never felt that father figure kind of love, right? So the only one there is my mom. And we even do that now as adults. Like we take it out on the people we love. We wouldn't yell at a stranger in the grocery store. Most of us wouldn't be like, yeah, but we'll yell at, someone we love, our kids or our partner, our spouse or whatever. And so back then when he took my music away, it then kind of, and then, we had a physical abuse altercation that finally my mom left him, which was really hard for her to do. And now as an adult, I understand that. Being in an emotionally and physically abusive relationship where there are kids involved and you're trying to keep the family together, but you're trying to do what's best for your teenage daughter who you don't want to choose the same kind of spouse, right? When she finally got that courage to walk away and he took my music, it was like bitterness. It was sadness. It was rejection. And it was, who can I blame? You know? And so I blamed her. And that really just took me on a path of just really wanting to be on my own as soon as possible. So that's when I realized I was really good at sales, because I would make cookies and sell them door to door. I would like buy products for less and like sell them for more at the corner garage sale. I did.
You were Amazon before Amazon existed.
I was Amazon before Amazon even existed. Yes. And I always found creative ways, because I was like, one thing that I felt was maybe she stayed in that relationship for financial reasons. Not that he was like super wealthy, but I feel like there was comfort there. Right. And I just felt like even at that age of like 13, like, well, if I can be self-sufficient financially, then I never have to deal with a jerk like that just because of financial comfort. And so that spiraled in. But like you said, right? Everything happens for a reason. It got me into, I got married for the first time when I was 16. It wasn't for love. It was for emancipation, is what it's called in Virginia. And that allowed me to start my adult life at 16 years old. So I dropped out of high school I had a 4.0 GPA. I had the highest standard of learning testing scores in the whole state of Virginia, you know, but I was just like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to listen to this authority. I want to go make money. And so I started selling magazines.
Wow. 16. Jeez. And I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. So I have to interject, and I don't know where this falls in the timeline, but maybe some people know this. I didn't know this when I first met you. Where does music come back into your life? And maybe more on the singing aspect, if you know what I mean.
So music on the singing side came back right when I left home, because there was things called karaoke bars, and I had 16, a fake ID. I had a fake ID.
Jeez, this is why two boys. I can't imagine. I don't have hair now with two boys. If I had a girl.
So I had a fake ID, and I realized after my first karaoke song that if you sing really good, people will buy you drinks. And so that was like, I was a weekend warrior, and I would go to all the country, because back then I sang a lot of country music, and I would go to all.
Didn't you make fun of me for being in a bar when I was 16 playing the drums?
Yeah. Yeah.
You all, whoever, if you're watching this, rewind that episode. Remember, pot meet kettle, kettle meet pot. All right, proceed.
Call it black. So so that became a big part of like my extracurriculars. I'd go singing, or if we were somewhere and there was a live band, like give me enough liquid courage back then. And I was like, let me sing with you. And they're like, well, how do I know you can sing? If I can't sing, then you can turn me off. And of course we'd end up singing the whole night together. So it was around early 20s in 2011 that I started doing in New York. I moved to New York to become a star, and I started doing like actual live shows where people would book me for shows. I sang in the parks for money. And I was like living that singer, like I'm going to make it lifestyle. Yeah. And I decided to try out for American Idol, and I did make it to Hollywood. Scotty McCready actually won that year.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I made it all the way to Hollywood, but I was a country singer, and back then, other than Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish, there was no other really African American country singers.
Mm-mm.
Now it's everywhere. So I think I was just a little too early.
You were
them.
just too early.
I was too early. But Lord knows I was not meant to be a musician. Okay, I'd be dead.
Yeah, if I would have got to live out my dream and play the drums, I would not be alive. I promise you.
Yes.
Promise you. I would not be alive.
I promise you. Things I've learned about the music industry, and with my personality, I would have definitely been like out there. That's one of the things they told me. Like, your personality is amazing. Like, you're so wild. We love it. But you sing country music. Like, can you sing R&B? Uh-huh. And back then, I had not found the soul in my voice yet. I don't think I had gone through things, but I had never used music to express that. So it wasn't until, later on in 2014. It wasn't
a story. You were just singing.
Exactly. I was just singing and I was just good at it. So you couldn't feel the words, right? Even though I had been through some stuff, I was really focused on making it sound more country. Even though I felt like it was natural, I was more like, let me sound like LeAnn Rimes, not sound like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So you made it to Hollywood, but you didn't make it into the final, the big show, so to speak. Did that crush your dreams? Did you know you were done? Did you keep trying to sing for a while, or what happened with your music?
That summer, I went and tried out for The Voice. I went to another city and tried out for American Idol again, and didn't make it anywhere near as far as I did in that New York audition. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was like, well, I'm not going to be one of those broke people that are chasing a dream for. Yeah. It's time to find, something else. And it was actually the next summer that I first started getting into vacation timeshares in my hometown of Virginia Beach, Virginia. My ex-boyfriend reached out to me and he was like, are you still in sales? Because, I've always done some kind of sales at that point. So I was like, yeah. He's like, well, Virginia Beach, they're opening a new resort, and I think this would be a really good thing for you. You're just basically selling vacations to families. And so I did. I went to Virginia Beach, and that led me to a 10-year career in that.
So you did sales for a long time in Virginia, and then you end up going to Mexico. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how that decision was made to go to Mexico. Obviously, I'm sure there was a sales connection, but how did you make that decision to go there?
So one of my friends, so we were like this group of, I was 24, 25. The next one was maybe 30. The next one was maybe 35. But there was like 8 of us, and we were just the top salespeople at this company. And we lived on the beach. We rode our bike cruisers to the clubs. We worked hard. We partied hard. It was like, I think about it now and it feels like a whole nother person, and it feels like a whole nother life. But that was like our life. And every winter though, it would go dead. And even though we would get opportunities to sell, so to speak, they weren't as high quality because they were local people, not people traveling in. And one of the leaders of our group, basically the one who always led us to the most trouble, was like, hey guys, in Mexico, if we would have sold this contract in Mexico, we would have made like 10 times more. And of course we're like, what? He's like, let's just go there for the winter. I have a connect there. Let's just go there for the winter and we can sell there. Same thing we're doing here, but we'll sell it there to people that are coming from Canada, from Europe, from all
just in the off season, basically.
Just in the off season. Exactly. Okay. And so something very interesting happened 2 weeks before we were supposed to all go together. The leader, who was like one of my good friends at the time, something of his stuff, a lot of his money went missing, and it was pinned on me. And so I was shamed into like, you're not allowed. You're not a part of our group anymore. You're not going. You're not going. Have fun in Virginia. You're not welcome. to Vallarta, where we're going. Puerto Vallarta is on the west coast of Mexico. But you know me, you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot do. So I went on the internet and I said, okay, they're going to West Coast. I'm going to go East Coast. I'm going to go to Cancun. I'm going to look online and I'm going to see if there's any recruiters that are looking for talented people. And I did. I found one, a beautiful resort there. And they said, if you get here, we'll give you your place to stay and you have a month to prove yourself. And so I went to Cancun and that's what I did. And I was the only one there. And fun fact, 3 years later, because when I met my older daughter's father, I moved back to Williamsburg doing the same thing because I wanted to be close to my mom and have my baby there in Williamsburg. And I did. But when she was 18 months old, I really just felt like this call to go back overseas because I felt like as a single mother, to be able to have a maid, to be able to have a nanny, to be able to live in a beautiful place and have more money, the amount that I would make and the cost of living in Cancun was going to make more sense for us, if that makes sense. I was like, if I live here, you know, you make $200,000 in Williamsburg, Virginia. That's not bad. But it's still expensive. Right. But that same amount in Mexico, you're living like queens and kings, you know, and I had a little daughter and I wanted to give her the best life. So I ended up going back to Mexico. And that first year I won Rookie of the Year and they put me on stage and who was in the crowd but the leader friend who was like, you'll never work for this company in Vallarta. Well, now not only did I work for that company, but I was in the leadership board of that company for all 7 of their locations and on their stage at their yearly sales convention being their Rookie of the Year. So that was like awesome redemption right there.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too because you did that all on your own. It's easier to go in the security of a group. You're going to a new country. You don't really know anybody except for the people you're traveling with. And now you don't have people to travel with.
Right.
So I know you're stubborn enough to do it just to prove them wrong. But also you knew I can do this. You know, I think there's a huge power in belief in yourself. I give you a hard time about humility, but humility doesn't mean what a lot of people think humility means. And having that belief and knowing that you can do it, it drives me crazy when I hear people say, speak it into existence. So it's not like this mythical thing. Speaking it into existence means believing that you can accomplish something. You don't just say it. You say it because you know I will get this done. So obviously that's what you did. So one of the first times that we ever sat down and talked in person at length.
When we went to Houston, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think my words may have been similar to, we had spent a ton of time on phone calls. Felt like we knew each other really well, but we'd never been together in person. So we met in Houston. We sit down. I sit down at dinner, and I just wanted to get to know you, and I wanted your story. And I think I said something like, you tell me all your deep, dark secrets. Cause if I'm jumping in business bed with you, I need to know, who are you? You know, where did you come from? Tell me your story. Tell me where your passion comes from. And what you told me was something I knew nothing about in your experience in Mexico before you ultimately left. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. So really quick, back to what you said, speaking into existence, believing in yourself. That number one, that comes from my mom. My mom always told us we can do whatever we put our mind to. I actually used to want to be, when I was much younger and didn't know what it was, I wanted to be a pediatric surgeon. And she would always go, my maiden name is Snowden. And she would always go, Dr. Laura Snowden, please report a surgery.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
She used to always do that. So she always encouraged us, right? And then I always say not fake it till you make it, but faith it until you make it. Have the faith that you will make it.
I love that.
Yeah. So when I became I just excelled in my sales, and then I learned something called neuroscience sales. Read a couple of books by an author named Oren Clough. had a mentor there that kind of helped me understand it, because I'm very intelligent, right? But I'm book smart, I'm street smart, but I have to learn it first. So sometimes people will say things and say words that I don't know what it means. So instead of being like, oh, I know what that means, I'll be like, what? What does that mean?
Yes.
How do you say that?
But I love that about you. You've always been that way. And that is not a common trait by a lot of people.
Yeah.
They may not lie and act like they know what it means, but they just don't speak up. And then they'll go find out on the side, but they miss out because the context of the conversation at the time, they don't really get it, because after the fact is when they figure out what they're referring to. Like you always do that. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me. But you tell you one time and it's over. So
yeah, exactly.
So go ahead.
So he taught me how to put those things into context, and it allowed me to really excel in finding out what people really needed to help them to move forward. But always in my career, what came first is how can I help the person, not how can I make more money? Because I am a true believer that if you're helping the person and helping the people, the money will come. Yeah. And so when COVID happened and everything shut down, I had clients come to me with some concerns that I knew there was a solution to, because I knew very well and was very well educated in their contract and what they could do on their own. But they don't know what I know because they don't have all the years of experience. They don't have all the training and the education in that subject. And we're talking doctors, lawyers, big time negotiators, private equity, managing partners. These are heavy hitting people. But when it came to this subject, they might as well be in kindergarten. They have no idea. So I said in 2020, when this opportunity came to me, well, I can help you with this and it's going to save you like $200,000. If I save you that, I don't even think I even said that. I just did it. And then the client said to me, can I pay you? And I was like, pay me? She's like, yeah, you just saved me $200,000. Like, can I give you 20 grand? I was like, yes, and this was COVID, know? So then by now, me, when I get an idea and it's like, okay, this may be something. Well, within the first 90 days of finding out how many more people I could help, I had hit 7 figures for the first time in my life. And it changed a lot for me. It led to my plastic surgery. It led to this very luxurious, next level life that I always felt like I deserved. And I always wanted. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. Yeah. And I got there. But on the other side of helping these people, another side of people felt like I was taking from them. And even though what I was doing was completely legal, I was in a very corrupt country. And so when through Cancun being a small company, me being a very heavy drinker at the time, a functioning alcoholic, probably being a little too mouthy and braggy in certain events and stuff like that, they kind of put some things together, found out that it was me that was helping all these people, and they used their resources to have me kidnapped and thrown into a Mexican prison. And I was there for 153 days. And that was the beginning of a brand new life for me, because before, I've always been a generous person, but I don't think I was always very kind to myself. I think that I allowed people to use me, to walk over me, because there was still that hole of that rejection that had been from when I was younger. And I thought, okay, well, when I get money, when I have a child, it'll
be good.
Yeah. And I love my kids, but I've never been I want to have so many kids type of woman. But I know as a mom, I'm going to take care of my babies, but okay, maybe I have this kid and it'll fill that hole. Okay, maybe I'll have this thriving career. It'll fill that hole. I'll have this partner, this handsome partner, this fit model. It'll fill that hole. I'll have all this money. None of it did. And even though when they kidnapped me and I was flown to Jalisco to start, like, I didn't even realize what was happening because it was like all in Spanish. It was when my Spanish wasn't as good as it is now, or wasn't as good as it would be after 5 months being immersed, like without choice. But all I remember them saying is like, my translator saying, they're considering you a danger to society and you have no bond. And I'm like, wait, what? I just gave you $65,000 as my lawyer. You said I was going to get a bond, and then finding out that every lawyer was like in on it. Every judge was like in on it. They were all getting paid by this one entity. And that is so crippling for someone who comes from the United States, and our system is not perfect, but who unfortunately experienced many things in the system because of my traffic violations and because of DUIs and stuff like that. My thought was like, but if you have
I get my day in court.
Huh?
I get my day in court.
Yeah, I'll get exactly. And it will be fair. And
Right.
that is not how it works. And so it was the hardest experience I've ever gone through in my life. Mexican prison is worse than what you can ever imagine, what they see on TV. And the beauty that came from it is that's where I got sober, completely sober, off of all of drugs and alcohol. I mean, I lived in Mexico. I lived in luxurious Mexico. It's well known for cocaine, like beach clubs everywhere. It wasn't people, it just the crowd that I was with, super respected. It was just part of the life. Like it was just the lifestyle. You weren't looked as bad if you were, you know what I mean? It was just like
you were part of everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. And now it sounds crazy to me, but back then, obviously when I was in it, I was just like, whatever, that's what you do here, But in the most beautiful way, it turned me into who you see today. Completely present, completely sober. Obviously, I was let go because I didn't do anything wrong. Right. But it changed my life completely, and it allowed me to. I think it awakened my real potential on what I had to give back to the world.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't even imagine. There's so many questions that I would ask to dig deeper, but I want to wrap the story up the right way. Yeah. But I'll get control again. We know that one day.
Yeah, yes you yes, you will.
So, your experience led to POP. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your experience, your idea that led to POP. At the very, very beginning, obviously way before I knew you. And then we'll kind of touch on maybe just a little bit about how that all came together. But tell me about how that happened.
So in 2020, it was July. So I started that business in March, hit those accolades right around June. And by July, I was having surgery because I was like, I want to look like Beyonce. That's all I kept saying. I mean, and not face. I always felt like I've always been called like pretty face Laura, like always my whole life. But because of my up and down weight and all of that, like it was never like, And now, because I love myself, doesn't matter what shape or size I'll ever be, I love myself. But back then it was just like, if I have this body, then I'll have everything, Yeah. And so I had the surgery.
Something else to fill a hole.
Exactly. Something else to fill a hole. So I had the surgery. The surgeon was great, but at the same time, I lived in Mexico. So I went in Mexico. Probably not the best, They probably should have, like, when he smelt that I smelt like tequila, he probably shouldn't have done surgery on me.
Yeah. That's probably,
not
alcohol and surgery is kind of contraindicated. But hey, it's Mexico. All bets are off.
And maybe another Mexican surgeon wouldn't have done that. I know some Colombian surgeons who would have not. But the one that I chose, as great as he was, I think he was just like, this is my operation for today. She's saying she didn't drink, so let's go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I had actually not drank for 30 days. Then I got wasted the night before. And it was a 14-hour surgery. I had a hernia. They removed 4 or 5 pounds of skin and fat. Either way, I did really good. Some of my skin was trying to die near my incision, but they did these carbon dioxide treatments and all these different, I went to the hyperbaric chamber. I did all the things. So I ended up healing really well. And then I started exercising when the time was right and eat. I kind of felt forced to eat right because I looked at the list of all the things you're not allowed to have. And it was similar. I had used this skincare product for 7 years. I loved it, right? And they had this healthy living challenge that had vegan protein and healthy, no gluten, no sugar, no alcohol, no dairy, for no caffeine for 30 days. And so I talked to my friend who was a nutrition coach. I was like, do you think this will help me post-op surgery? Because I don't know what to eat if I can't order in and if I can't eat this stuff. And she's like, yeah, it's perfect. So I had salads and soups and these vegan protein shakes with blueberries and all this anti-inflammation. So my healing was going really well because I was incorporating all these things. I had no idea that was why. I was just like, oh, this is how surgery works, I had lymphatic massages regularly because that's what the surgeon said. And my assistant, Andrea, who's still my assistant, she booked everything. I just had to they came to the house and everything. So it was I'm 14 months post-op at this time and I'm looking great. Okay. Everything's looking amazing. I'm feeling amazing, not feeling amazing. I shouldn't have said that. I'm looking great, but I don't see what everyone's seeing. Even sometimes when I take pictures of myself, I see in the picture, but I don't see in the mirror. And I started getting really depressed. I had blues all the time, but I would always just once I was okay to drink again, I would just drink to cover that up. Right. And I don't want anybody to think I had a bottle of vodka with me all the time. It was just very glamorous. Let's go to dinner, order a bottle of wine. Let's go to dinner, order a bottle of champagne. Hello, let's take shots in between. It was kind of what people would see as casual. It's just that I was doing that every day. And so I didn't allow myself enough time to feel any feelings. And so I think the one time I did when I took a break, a break from alcohol for 3 days or so, it was in that time that my nutritionist was like, hey, I really think that you need to talk to somebody because you might be dealing with some post-op depression. I was looking it up, and when you were telling me how you were feeling in our conversation, I felt like that may be what you're going through. And so once I got some help, that's when I was like, am I the only one who goes through this during surgery? And through research and Facebook groups and Instagram, I found out that I was not the only one. And when everything happened and I got kidnapped in Mexico and all of that, there's not a lot of things you can do. You can read, you can write. And I was like, well, when I get out, for sure, I can't do this other business anymore. What am I going to do? So I feel like really it was the Holy Spirit that kind of just was I just started writing out POP health services. It was post-op health services. And I said, oh, POP post-op. And I was like, POP health services. And my mom, I'd talk to her and she's like, yeah, it could be make it pop, make it pop, And so that was actually the first company that we created was Make It Pop. And it was this nutrition and mental health. But first I thought it would just be concierge. And through that I still have that journal. So I've been journaling since I was 15 years old, since I've been on my own. And I have all of my journals. And I still have my journals from prison every day. And I still have those pages where I wrote out POP for the first time and how much and on the corner, it's how much we're going to charge, what's going to be the profit. I'm all the services, but me, I'm on the business side. This is a great idea, but is this a business?
Right.
And
yeah. Is it profitable?
Yeah, exactly. And so now 2 years later, it's bad ow. crazy. Like, this is crazy. And you just go down like memory lane. So now I'm more proud of what I've done.
You just reminded yourself that, hey, I saw this.
Yeah. Yep. So that was just a dream. And I didn't, I mean, it was a dream, but for me, I've always been like delusional, like, if I'm like, okay, if I had this problem and other people have this problem, when I first got out,
right,
the first thing I did was because I had been writing out all these ideas, right? I'm like, we have to find out if other people have this problem. And as soon I got out in August, spent all of August researching Facebook groups, Instagram. By September, we started the LLC because I found out that there was a need for it.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you started doing this for plastic surgery. That's where you really, because of your own experience. And then eventually you got to a point where you were curious about bariatric surgery. And I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be, only this one time. But I wanted to, where were you when you made that connection of how POP could really go across the spectrum of a variety of services, and obviously bariatrics being one of the first ones.
So one of the first things that we did was, thankfully, I still had money left over from my other business. So I had money to invest. And so the first thing we did was offer our services to trials that we found on Instagram who were sharing, in 60 days, I'm having skin removal surgery. They were these weight loss influencers that had lost the weight and now they were getting skin removal surgery. And so I just reached out to him and I said, hey, I have this concept that we are going live with, and I'd love to give you this opportunity in exchange for your true, honest feedback so we can develop this program. And so that was my first exposure. And my coaches, I have never coached one person. I've been the motivator sometimes, like you can do this, but I wasn't giving nobody nutrition advice or mental health advice.
Right.
I always had a team for that. Concierge. And then when that went really well and I decided, though, it's going to be better to go into practices, that's when I actually DM'd our producer now, who is the producer of BB&L Media. But when I met her, she was doing her podcast and working with women having surgery. And I said, hey, I have this idea. Like, do you think that this will work with plastic surgery? And she was like, yes, it's going to work. Like, this is really needed. This has been missing. And one thing she said to me is like, this is going to be really hard. But I told you, like, I'm delusional in a way. When people say that to me, it's like a challenge. I'm like, yeah, it's hard for them, not for me. I'm eating those words now. I'm still going, like, I'm still very proud, but like, so she really helped us get into those plastic surgery practices that focused on, weight loss and stuff like that. But it was my coaches who said, hey, like, a lot of these patients are saying they wish they had something like this in bariatric surgery.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how is that possible? Because they have dietitians, they have therapists, they have all that already. Why would they need this? Like, they have all those, like, don't they meet with them like once a month before surgery? Like, this is my thought, I was like, why are we going to reinvent something that they're already doing? And they were just like, actually, they're not already doing it. And so that's when Katia got you and I connected, and that conversation, if not for that conversation, I probably am not sure I would have pursued bariatrics because I was a little discouraged up to that point. I'm already going up this mountain with plastics, right?
With plastics, yeah.
And I'm getting some, we already had our largest practice at that time, which was a blessing from God, to be able to go from 10 patients total to 80 a month. Like, that's nothing but God.
Yeah.
All right, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But that was not happening with the bariatric side. And so then I was just like, well, maybe it's because it's not needed. And it was our conversation and you being in for so long with all the experience you have and everything that you have that we covered in the first episode. So if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. When you said like, this is something, that's what made me say, okay, we're going for it. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it together.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I think one of the most fascinating things about the whole evolution of pop, and what I know about it before I was part of it, and what I know about it now as I'm part of it. And I feel like I've been with it for years, dog years.
Almost 1 year.
It's crazy because so many things have happened. And on one hand, we're not on this podcast right now to talk about all the accomplishments that we've made, because that's not what it's about. What people now know POP stands for is not post-op.
Yeah.
It stands for patients over profit.
Yeah.
And the ability to organically bring the patient to us first and put the control in the hands of the patient, and they can achieve anything they want. They can find a plastic surgeon, they can find a bariatric surgeon, but they always have the resources. Whether the surgeon has to happen to have those or not is so cool. And we don't really talk about the numbers, but the amount of surgeries that we have worked with are working with that. The amount of success stories we're working with currently in their weight loss journey, whether it be surgical or medical, in that short period of time is mind blowing. You and I had a call today with someone, and they're like, "Wow, you guys have accomplished that already." To be part of one of the largest systems in the entire plastic surgery industry and now be part of their program and thousands of practices it's mind blowing. Yeah. But that's your baby. Like, I jumped on and I'm along for the ride, and it's like, the 8 seconds to try to stay on for the bull. But what you've built from a dream that you sat in prison and journaled about, is amazing. And it doesn't surprise me how I know you now, because if there's anybody that will pull that off, it's you, because of your persistence and your dedication. And as well as anybody, it's not always been easy. There's been times of frustration and everything, but you've never wavered. But I think there's many reasons why you've made it as successful as it is. And we'll revisit the show a year and 5 years from now, and we'll be mind blown where it will be then. I know that without question. But at the end of the day, it's your passion. Like the passion that you have for making a successful business that first and foremost impacts people's lives in a positive way. And you won't say this, but I've seen you do so many things, from pure charity to make sure patients can achieve what they want to achieve. And I believe, there's a lot of things that our beliefs align. And I do believe that if you take care of people and you do the right thing, and you never look at it like, well, they may take advantage of me, you have nothing to lose. The good things will come. And if that person never pays you back, that's okay. The payment you got is you helped them. You change their life. And in time, that turns into other opportunities that may lead to business opportunities and everything else. What do you, when you look back on where you started, where you were, and where you were journaling, and where you are now, what do you wish, if you're sitting down with your daughter 10 years from now, or your son, and they're older, what do you think you would say to them? Not necessarily decisions that you made to get where you were, but what do you think the biggest lesson you've learned that you will sit down with them, that you will always leave with them moving forward as they chase after their dreams?
To always trust in the Lord and to let him lead their path. And I strongly believe that. It's when I got out of my own head and what I am capable of and said, what did you make me capable of? Like, what do you want me to do with my life? Keeping that at the forefront of my decision making has made a huge difference, and doing it unapologetically. And just that for me is because it's scary. What we are doing, and especially from my standpoint, I think it's not as scary for you because you've already done some pretty amazing things in your career. And I think that's why we are such a good pair, because you think rationally in ways that I don't. I'll be like, and you're like, just calm down. I understand why you feel that way, but let's think about it like this. Okay. You and mom are kind of like my sounding boards when it comes to my crazy moments. But what I'm doing is extremely challenging, and I can't do it by myself. So in having that faith that there is something bigger than me that I can trust, that can lead me in the right direction, that is what allows me to hold on to my hope and to not give up.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been fun. And I feel like I took it pretty easy on you, but I know I'll have future opportunities.
Yeah.
What message, you asked me this question, so I'm going to close in asking you the same question.
Okay.
What would you like our viewers to feel like they are going to get from this journey, joining us on this podcast on a regular basis?
Well, it's going to sound like a little corny because we use it in our taglines, like the inside scoop with an outside view. But that is really what I want them to get. I ask you questions like about the pre-med and the medical, and I'll continue to ask you those inside view questions that only really someone in your position will know, but have that outside view of like, not ever being in medical school, not ever being involved, but being curious and also having a desire to be healthy. I hope that our listeners, through our different conversations, have a desire as early as possible to take advantage of all the science and technology and all of the things that are available to make us healthy and happy. From our guts to our skin to anti-aging to everything that is out there, educating them enough to where they can say, you know what, I never thought about this, but now because I listened to this podcast, I'm going to go explore that for myself because I deserve to be healthy and to be happy. Health is the most valuable thing that we have over anything else is our health. And so for them to hear stories that align with that motivating button for them to go then take action and do something great for themselves.
Yeah. Be curious.
Yeah.
For everybody out there, be curious. And it's okay to be curious that sometimes doesn't align with somebody else's curiosity on a subject matter, whether it's a medication or a surgical treatment or a supplement or anything like that. We've got to find a way, and I hope people will see on here, because we're going to do our best to challenge ourselves, to bring differing opinions in, that we're allowed to be curious in different directions, but we can still learn from each other. And we may walk away and our curiosities may not align, but guess what? You'll always learn something. That's what I hope too. Well, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I didn't make you crack. I didn't make you break down. But I love you, and that's why I didn't do that to you. If you want to know the honest truth.
Oh, how sweet of you.
All right. So we'll see you guys next time, and can't wait to take you guys on this journey.
See you
Bye.
next week. Bye.